What do the most successful billionaire in the world and the person who's currently sleeping on their parents' couch have in common?
Well, I mean, that's a pretty wide gap.
Right, but they actually share the exact same asset. They both have exactly 86,400 seconds to spend today. Not a single second more, not 1 second less.
Oh, yeah. The great equalizer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We all know this logically, yet if you ask almost anyone what their biggest problem in life is, the answer is just so universal. It's always, I just don't have enough time.
It really is the ultimate paradox of modern life, isn't it? We are swimming in the exact same resource that built, every great empire, wrote every masterpiece, launched every major innovation. Yeah. But we constantly feel time poor. I mean, we want the bigger future, the financial freedom, the career pivot, but we treat time like it's simultaneously scarce and infinite.
And that tension right there is exactly what we are unpacking in today's deep dive. We're looking at a narrative titled, Most People Will Tell You They Don't Have Enough.
It's a really fascinating piece.
It is. It centers around this fable about time. But we're going to use this source material as a sort of framework to figure out the actual mechanics of why we constantly delay our own ambitions.
Right, because reframing your relationship with your daily 24 hours, it's not just some, cheesy motivational poster concept.
No, definitely not.
It is the absolute prerequisite for getting literally anything done.
Yeah.
The foundational premise of the source material is that success doesn't start with capital.
Okay.
It starts with time allocation. The argument is that if the distribution of hours is universally equal, then the massive disparities we see in people's lives are dictated strictly by their behavioral choices.
I have to admit, I do get a little skeptical when I hear that.
Sure.
Because obviously socioeconomic factors exist, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But I do see the utility in the argument. I mean, stripped down to the absolute basics, the richest person didn't somehow get a 30-hour day.
Right. They still get 24 hours.
Exactly. So, to figure out how to optimize the time we do actually have, the source introduces us to this psychological trap that steals our time. And it does this using a character named Caleb.
Right. So Caleb is this young man living in a quiet village, and the text makes a very specific point to describe him not as lazy or, foolish.
Yeah, that stood out to me.
He's described as sharp, kind, and full of ambition. He actually has very clear goals. He wants to build his own home, earn the respect of his community, and make his family proud.
Which is where I don't get it, though.
What do you mean?
Well, if the text says he's sharp and he actually wants these things, why is his default state just sitting around doing nothing?
It does seem weird.
Like the source says when his dad asks him to learn a trade, he says, oh, I'll start tomorrow. When he needs to study, he says there's plenty of time. If he actually wants the house and the respect, why is he just watching his friends build skills while he sleeps in? It just feels totally contradictory.
It does seem contradictory, yeah, until you look at the underlying psychology. Specifically, a cognitive bias known as hyperbolic discounting.
Hyperbolic what?
Hyperbolic discounting. Basically, human brains did not evolve to prioritize long-term abstract rewards like, building a house next year.
Oh, right. We evolved for survival.
Exactly. Immediate survival and energy conservation today. So when Caleb thinks about doing hard work right now, his brain registers it as an immediate cost, a threat to his energy.
Okay.
But when he thinks about doing it tomorrow, the brain perceives it as having zero immediate cost.
Oh, wow. So it's basically an evolutionary glitch. We are literally wired to conserve energy today and just push all the heavy lifting onto this, imaginary future version of ourselves.
Yes, that is exactly it. In fact, there are functional MRI studies that have shown that when you think about your future self, the brain activates the exact same regions it uses when thinking about a complete stranger.
Wait, really? A total stranger?
A total stranger. So Caleb isn't just procrastinating. In his own mind, he's basically delegating the hard work to some stranger who just happens to also be named Caleb.
That is wild.
And this stranger lives in a magical land called Tomorrow, where doing hard work somehow doesn't take any effort.
That is incredibly relatable, honestly. And it makes the tomorrow trap sound highly seductive.
Seductive is a good word for it.
It totally reminds me of, when you sign up for one of those free subscription trials that you keep meaning to cancel?
Oh, all the time. Yes.
Right. You sign up, you get the 30 free days, and you tell yourself, oh, I'll definitely cancel it tomorrow. Pushing it off feels completely cost-free in the moment. You don't feel any pain.
Zero pain.
But days turn into months. And because you never got hit with a single massive painful bill all at once, you literally don't realize you've been bleeding cash for a year.
That is a perfect analogy.
That's what Caleb is doing with his life, just bleeding time.
And that analogy tracks perfectly with the psychological concept of present bias, because passive waiting requires zero friction.
Right, you just sit there.
Exactly. You don't have to make a choice to do nothing. Doing nothing is the default. And because a wasted Tuesday doesn't physically hurt, another whole year just quietly disappeared.
It's terrifying.
The source points out that Caleb is essentially waiting for a perfect moment to begin, but waiting is a passive state. It doesn't generate perfect moments, it just consumes the resource.
But passive waiting always has an expiration date, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, reality catches up.
Always.
And in the narrative, reality shows up as this old man named Elias, who's known as the wisest person in the village.
Right.
And Elias finds Caleb down by the river, engaging in his favorite hobby, doing absolutely nothing.
So Elias sits down and initiates a conversation with two very deliberate questions. First, he asks, "What do you want out of life?"
And Caleb immediately lights up.
He does. He lists off the success, the money, the respect. He clearly has the vision.
Yeah.
But then Elias asks a second question. And the text actually notes that he drops his voice to ask it. He says, "And what are you doing today to earn any of that?"
Oof. That second question is brutal.
It really is.
Because you can lie to yourself about tomorrow all you want, but you cannot fake what you are doing right now in this exact second.
Right. And Caleb is silenced. He has absolutely no defense. But Elias takes it a step further. He doesn't just leave him with a philosophical puzzle.
What does he do?
He reaches down, grabs a handful of river sand, and slowly opens his fingers, just letting the sand slip through. And he tells Caleb, "Time is exactly like this sand. Once it leaves your hand, you never get it back."
You know, let's contextualize that for someone listening to this deep dive today. Because dropping sand is a nice poetic image, but it might not hit home for like a modern professional.
That's fair.
Think of it like watching your smartphone battery drain.
Oh, that's good.
It's 100% right.
Yeah.
And as you scroll through social media, you see it drop to 80, then 50, and suddenly you're in the red at 10%. You can visually see the power disappearing.
And it causes immediate panic.
Exactly. Now, obviously, you can plug your phone in and get a new charge later. But the specific time you spent draining that exact battery cycle is gone forever.
Right.
Time doesn't come with a little battery icon in the corner of our vision. The falling sand is just a physical manifestation of that invisible battery drain.
The visual component is the crucial mechanism here. Elias understands that humans really struggle with abstract concepts. We can logically understand that time is passing, like Caleb knew he was getting older.
Sure.
But cognitive understanding is entirely different from a visceral realization. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as a somatic marker.
A somatic marker.
Yeah, it's a strong physiological reaction that connects an emotion to a concept. Elias forces Caleb to watch the irreversible loss of a physical asset.
The sand.
The sand. The text emphasizes that Caleb understood the words before, but watching the sand fall made him finally feel the actual weight of the loss.
Okay, I buy that. I buy the visual wake-up call, the sand is falling.
Mm-hmm.
But you and I both know that having an epiphany by a river or, reading a really good self-help quote on the internet that doesn't actually rewrite your daily habits.
No, it rarely does on its own.
You can feel very inspired at 10 p.m. and still hit snooze 6 times the next morning.
Which is exactly why the narrative introduces a structural system the very next day. A wake-up call without a framework is just temporary anxiety.
That is so true.
So Elias invites Caleb to his home the following morning to provide that actual framework.
And it brings us to the 3 apples framework, which I honestly think is arguably the most practical mental model in this entire source.
It's brilliant in its simplicity.
So Elias places 3 apples on a table.
Mm-hmm.
One is perfectly fresh and crisp, one is bruised, and one is completely rotten.
Right, and Caleb doesn't understand the display at first, so Elias explains it. He says the fresh apple is the future, the bruised apple is today, and the rotten apple is yesterday.
The rule of the apples laid out in the text is pretty stark too.
Yeah.
It says, you can use today to protect your future, but yesterday is rotten.
Yep.
No matter how much you agonize over it, you cannot go back and extract any value from a rotten apple.
It's a method of forced categorization. It compels Caleb to stop looking backward with regret and to stop looking forward with, vague hope.
Right.
And instead to focus entirely on the only controllable asset he has, which is the present. This prompts Caleb to go home and do something he has never done in his entire life.
Which is...
He does the math.
He audits his time. This part of the source is fascinating because it's so tactical. He actually sits down and calculates the hours he wastes on pointless distractions, oversleeping, just avoiding responsibility.
Yeah, it's a harsh reality check.
And when he looks at the final number, he is stunned by the deficit.
Because he is quantifying the invisible.
Let me ask you something about that, because this specific thing just drives me crazy.
Okay, what is it?
Why is it that we will obsessively check our bank accounts, like opening the banking app, just to make sure a minor grocery charge cleared correctly, but we completely ignore our time balances?
That's a great question.
Like, we would never let a stranger reach into our wallet and take $20, but we will totally let an algorithm steal 3 hours of our Tuesday evening without a second thought.
It comes down to feedback loops. Money has a highly visible external ledger. If you spend too much, a number on a screen turns red, or a card gets declined, or you get a late fee in the mail.
Right, it's immediate.
There is immediate, undeniable feedback. Time has no external ledger. The feedback loop for wasted time is incredibly delayed.
Because it just resets.
Exactly, because everyone wakes up with a fresh 24 hours every single day. The brain treats it as an infinitely renewable resource. You don't get an overdraft fee when you waste an afternoon.
No, you don't.
You just wake up the next morning feeling, slightly more behind in life.
So auditing his time gives Caleb the ledger he was missing.
Yes. But the most important part of Elias's framework is actually the bruised apple, the one that represents today.
I noticed that. Why isn't today represented by the perfect, fresh apple?
Because today is rarely perfect. The future, the fresh apple, is this idealized concept. We always imagine our future selves acting flawlessly.
Waking up at 5 a.m., drinking a green smoothie.
Right, exactly. But today is bruised. You might have woken up with a headache. You might have already wasted the entire morning scrolling on your phone.
Or you have a frustrating commute, or a screaming toddler.
Exactly. The apple has spots on it. The genius of this framework is the realization that a bruised apple is still usable. You can cut around the bad parts and still get sustenance from it.
That completely destroys the perfectionist mindset. The idea that if a day doesn't start perfectly, it's totally ruined.
Oh, people do that all the time.
How many times have we told ourselves, well, I ate a donut for breakfast, so my diet's ruined today. I'll just eat garbage for the rest of the day and start over tomorrow.
All the time.
We throw out the entire bruised apple just because it has one dent in it.
Which is really just another variation of the tomorrow trap. Perfectionism is often just procrastination wearing a mask.
Oh, that's good.
Caleb's breakthrough was accepting that he didn't need a flawless Tuesday to start building his life. He just needed to use whatever was left of the Tuesday he actually had.
Okay, so Caleb has the ledger, he accepts the bruised apple, and he decides to change. But recognizing you have a problem and actually changing your life are two vastly different things.
Very different.
The source material gets surprisingly gritty here. It doesn't just cut to a movie montage of him suddenly being successful.
No, it acknowledges the biological friction of behavioral change. The text explicitly states that when Caleb decided to stop making excuses, it wasn't easy.
It says old habits pulled at him. Some mornings he desperately wanted to quit. He had to force this whole new routine of waking up early, reading, and actually putting in the labor to build skills instead of killing time.
And we can look at this through the lens of neuroplasticity. Caleb has spent years laying down thick, efficient neural pathways for procrastination.
His brain is used to it.
His brain is highly optimized for doing nothing. When he tries to wake up early and work, he is forcing his brain to forge entirely new, unpaved neural pathways.
Which is exhausting.
It requires immense cognitive energy. The friction he feels isn't a lack of character, it's literally his basal ganglia fighting to conserve energy by reverting to the old, easy habit loop.
It's exactly like building physical muscle. Think about it. The first time you go to the gym and lift a heavy weight, it is agonizing.
Everything hurts.
Your nervous system is screaming at you to drop it. The next morning, you are so sore. And if you only look at that immediate feedback, you'd never go back to the gym.
Right.
But if you keep forcing the repetition, eventually the muscle adapts. The discipline itself becomes your default state.
But how do you survive that initial phase of agonizing friction? That's the hard part. The source provides a really vital detail about Caleb's strategy here. He didn't just try to white-knuckle his way through with sheer willpower, because willpower depletes throughout the day.
Right. The text mentions he actively used the mental image of the sand falling through Elias's fingers. Whenever he felt the urge to hit snooze or put off a task, he called up that specific visualization to physically stop himself.
He used the somatic marker, that emotional weight of the falling sand, as a pattern interrupt.
A pattern interrupt.
Yeah. When his brain suggested the easy route, he countered it with the visceral fear of irreversible loss. And over months and years, those new choices compounded.
They added up.
The skills he forced himself to learn began generating income. The early mornings built physical and mental resilience. The knowledge he acquired opened doors that his passive self would never have even seen.
And there's a great moment later in the text where an old friend asks Caleb what his grand secret to success was, and Caleb just says, "I stopped wasting time."
It sounds so simple.
It almost sounds dismissive, but
Yeah.
it's the absolute truth.
It strips away all the mythology we build around success. The broader implication the text makes here is really profound. We tend to look at highly accomplished people and assume they possess some, hidden genius or a secret network or limitless resources.
Yeah, we make excuses for why they made it and we didn't.
Exactly. But the reality is usually much more mundane. They simply value their time at a much higher premium than the people around them. They fiercely guard the falling sand.
They don't wait for the perfect moment. They take the bruised apple of today and they extract whatever value they can from it despite the friction.
Which naturally transitions us to the final act of this narrative, because a principle is only truly powerful if it survives generationally.
Right, so we jump forward in time. Caleb is now a fully grown, widely respected man. He runs a successful business. He built the exact life he envisioned when he was that young kid sitting under the tree.
And one afternoon, he's walking near that exact same riverbank, and he spots a group of young boys sitting under his old tree doing exactly what he used to do.
Just lounging around.
Yeah. They are talking endlessly about their massive dreams, becoming doctors, traveling the world, launching enterprises, but they are actively doing nothing to achieve them.
And, Caleb could have approached this in 100 different ways.
Yeah.
He has capital now. He could have just written them checks to start their businesses.
Or paid for their tuition.
Yeah, paid for their medical textbooks. But he doesn't give them money or resources.
No, he doesn't.
He bends down, picks up a handful of river sand, and lets it slip through his fingers. He repeats the exact demonstration Elias showed him, telling the boys, every dream has a price, and that price is time.
He passes on the mental model, not the cash.
Right.
Because he understands that capital without a fundamental respect for time will just be squandered anyway. Lost money can be earned back. A failed business venture can be diagnosed, restructured, and rebuilt.
You can always make another dollar.
Exactly. Even a missed opportunity can sometimes circle back around in a different form. But time is the only truly non-renewable asset in the human experience. Once spent, it is permanently destroyed.
The symmetry there is just brilliant. The text notes that every day you waste pushes your dreams slightly further away, and every day you use wisely pulls it slightly closer. The entire trajectory of your life is literally just the sum total of those tiny daily negotiations with time.
Every second that passes is immediately crystallized into permanent history. You can never edit it, and you can never ask for a refund.
So we want to turn this directly to you, the person listening to this deep dive right now.
Yeah, think about your own day.
Whether you are commuting, walking the dog, or sitting at your desk avoiding a big project, this isn't just an ancient fable. It's a diagnostic tool for how you are spending your actual 86,400 seconds today.
The mandate from this source material is uncompromising. You have to abandon the illusion of a magical tomorrow. Tomorrow is a thief disguised as a friend.
A thief disguised as a friend. I love that.
If you consistently push your ambitions to tomorrow, you will eventually look up and realize that tomorrow has quietly stolen decades of your potential. The only way to build a different future is to start right now, in the friction and imperfection of a bruise today. One choice at a time.
The sand is actively falling out of your hand right this second.
To leave you with a final thought to mull over, I want to take that idea of your daily choices becoming permanent history and push it one step further.
Okay, let's hear it.
Imagine that a master historian has been commissioned to write the definitive, authoritative biography of your life.
Okay.
But there is a strict rule. They are not allowed to look at your future plans, your grand intentions, or what you promise you will do next year.
Oh boy.
They are only allowed to use how you spent your last 24 hours as their entire source material.
Wow. Just the last 24 hours.
Based solely on what you actually did yesterday, what would the title of that book be?
That is heavy.
And if you don't like the title of that book, what are you going to do with your sand today?